There was a lasagna in the oven and a note on the counter that said, "Don't wait up." That's it. No explanation, no name, not even a heart at the end. Just 3 words and the quiet hum of a kitchen timer still ticking. I stood there like an idiot in my own house, holding a spatula I never asked to hold, wearing an apron I hated, and staring at the empty chair across the table where she usually scrolled through her phone during dinner. That chair stayed empty for 3 hours, then 4. Then I gave up and ate alone. She didn't come back that night. The next morning, she acted like she'd just run out for milk. Said she was tired. Blamed work. Said I was always watching. I asked her where she went, and she said, "Out." Just like that. I asked, "Out where?" She said, "Does it matter?" Apparently it didn't. The next week, she changed her phone password. Then she stopped kissing me goodbye. Then she started keeping her car keys in her purse instead of the bowl by the door, a bowl I made in a ceramics class she made me take. I don't even like bowls. One night, I came home and the lights were off, but I heard her laughing, whispering, low, giggly, drunk on someone else's attention kind of laughing. When I stepped inside, she was on the phone. She flinched when she saw me. Said it was her cousin. She doesn't have a cousin named Link. I know because I checked. I opened her laptop while she was in the shower and typed "Link" into the search bar. Messages. Screenshots. A playlist called Late Drives with him. The folder was named Shu. She told him I used to be charming. That I cried too easily now. That I had those sad puppy eyes. She even called me a background character in my own life. She wasn't wrong. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not because I was scared, but because I still had hope. That's the worst part. Hope will keep you in a burning house just because it used to be warm. So I stayed. I did the dishes. I folded her hoodies. I bought almond milk even though I hate it. I even left little notes in her lunch bag like I used to. She never mentioned them. Then, one Sunday morning, I reached out to touch her leg in bed, and she flinched like I'd burned her. She didn't say sorry. She just sighed. That was the last time I touched her. That was 49 days ago. And now, tonight, I'm sitting in the same spot, same kitchen, same stupid apron, when my phone lights up. It's her. And the message just says, "Can we talk?" I stared at her message for a full 5 minutes. "Can we talk?" I read it again. And again. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to. I did. God, I did. But something about those words felt sterile. Too clean. Like they'd been copy-pasted from someone else's breakup script. There was no "I miss you." No, "I'm sorry." Just a line you'd use to ask a coworker about office supplies. I didn't respond that night. I made tea instead. Walked circles around my living room until the steam from the mug disappeared. She didn't follow up. Next morning, I cracked. I typed, "Sure." "When?" She replied, "Now." So I said yes. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't seen her in weeks. Not really. We shared the same air once or twice when I picked up the last of my things, but she didn't look at me. Her eyes danced over my shoulder like I was made of fog. That day, I didn't even take everything. I left behind my hoodie, the one she always stole. I think part of me wanted her to wear it again, just once. Maybe cry into it. Maybe remember. When I pulled into her driveway, my hands were sweating. I saw her silhouette in the window. She looked calm. Too calm. I parked anyway. Walked up to the door like I wasn't unraveling. She opened it before I knocked. "Hey," she said. I nodded. "Hey." We didn't hug. She led me to the kitchen. The same kitchen where she once kissed me with flour on her nose and asked me if we should name our first kid Jonah or Ivy. Now she offered me tea like I was a guest. We sat. And then she started. No apology. No emotion. Just words. Mechanical and rehearsed. She said she'd been confused. That things had moved too fast. That we'd grown apart. That she thought I wanted something she couldn't give. She used phrases like emotional compatibility and season of change. I wanted to vomit. It felt like I was listening to someone describing a car lease that didn't work out. Then she said something that made me dizzy. She said, "Link never meant anything." Just like that. She admitted it. Out loud. Name and all. She looked right at me as she said it, like it was just a minor speed bump in the conversation. And still, I asked, "Then why?" She blinked. Shrugged. Said, "Because he made me feel alive. And I didn't think you ever would again." That shattered something in me I didn't even know was holding on. But I didn't scream. Didn't cry. Didn't beg. I just sat there. Then she said, "I miss the version of you from before." Before what? Before she broke me? Before I spent nights talking to my steering wheel because I couldn't talk to her, I wanted to say all of that. I wanted to flip the table, tear down the curtains, set fire to that stupid candle she kept relighting. But instead, I nodded. Like a coward. Like a Clark. A man who still picked up almond milk for a woman who couldn't even pretend to want him. Then she dropped the real reason she'd called me. I might have made a mistake, she said softly, tilting her head like some twisted therapist. I blinked. You think? But she didn't flinch. She just looked at me, calm and still and quiet. And then she whispered, "Would you ever come back?" For a second, just a second, I almost said yes. But then I looked past her. At the counter. At the mug. His mug. Still sitting there. Cleaned, dried, and placed gently on the shelf where mine used to be. I should have left the second I saw that mug. It was matte black with a little chip on the handle. A chip I'd recognize anywhere, because it used to be mine. I bought it at a roadside market in Maine during a trip she once called the best week of her life. When I moved out, I couldn't find it. I assumed it got tossed. Now it sat beside her French press like a quiet trophy of everything she'd taken without asking. I don't know why I stayed. Maybe I was hoping she'd explain. Maybe I needed closure or punishment or some twisted form of permission to finally stop loving her. But mostly, I think I just couldn't believe she was real. That this woman, who once cried because I'd cut my fingers slicing avocados, could now sit across from me and ask if I'd ever come back, like she hadn't replaced me one piece at a time. You kept the mug, I said, pointing at it. She followed my gaze, smiled, and said, "It's still a good one." No apology, no regret, just a casual remark about the things she took from me, used with another man, and left out like bait. I stood up. My legs were shaking. I wasn't angry. Not the loud kind, anyway. It was more like a pressure behind the ribs, like my own lungs were trying to escape my body. She watched me in silence, her thumb running lazy circles around her teacup like she wasn't watching her ex-husband fall apart in real time. "I shouldn't have come," I said finally. She tilted her head. "But you did." Then she stood too, slowly, like a cat stretching after a nap, and walked over to the counter. She picked up the mug, ran her fingers along the rim. And then, with zero ceremony, she dropped it in the sink. It clanged loud, cracked clean in half. "There," she said. "Happy." I stared at the broken pieces. "That's not how you fix things." She leaned against the fridge and folded her arms. "Maybe not, but at least now it matches us." That line, it hit me like ice down the spine. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was rewriting the past, turning our story into some mutual failure. Like I'd had a secret affair with loneliness, and we both just happened to fall apart at the same time. But I didn't cheat. I stayed. I begged. I tried. And then I saw it. Her phone on the counter lit up with a message. Just for a second. Long enough to catch the name. Link. Still in her phone. Still texting her. And the worst part? She didn't even flinch when she saw me notice. Just picked up the phone, locked the screen, and said, "He's not important anymore." Not "he's gone." Not "we're done." Just not important. But if that were true, why was she holding the phone like it was a lifeline? I turned to leave. She didn't stop me. She didn't call after me. She just let me go like she'd let me go 100 times before. Only this time, I didn't look back. But I barely made it down the street before my phone buzzed. It was a new number. No name. Just a single sentence. "If you think you know everything, you don't." I pulled over. My hands were ice. And suddenly, I wasn't sure who I was even mad at anymore. I sat in my car for 15 minutes staring at that message. "If you think you know everything, you don't." I reread it over and over, trying to convince myself it was a prank, or a wrong number, or maybe even her, trying to be cryptic, but it didn't feel like her style. Meredith was cold, calculated, the kind of woman who said exactly what she meant, even when it hurt. This felt different. It felt pointed. My mind started racing. Was it Link? Was he trying to intimidate me? Or worse, warn me? I thought about turning around, knocking on her door again, demanding answers, but something told me not to. Something in my gut said, wait. So I drove. Not home. Just away. No music. No podcasts. Just the sound of my tires on the wet road and my own breathing getting shallower every time I thought about what I might not know. I parked at the old grocery store near the river. It was closed down, abandoned. Meredith and I used to go there on Sunday mornings for overpriced cheese and lavender scones. Funny how even the most mundane places become haunted when your heart breaks inside them. I pulled out my phone and replied. Who is this? 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then came back, then nothing. I stared at the screen like it would whisper something to me. My heart was beating too fast. I wasn't afraid, not exactly. But I was unsettled, like someone had just peeled back the wallpaper in a familiar room and found a door I'd never seen before. A full hour passed before another message came. You should talk to Danielle. Danielle. That name hit me like cold water. Danielle used to be Meredith's best friend. They were inseparable in the early years. Brunches, spa weekends, long calls late into the night. But around 2 years ago, they suddenly stopped talking. Meredith never explained why. Just said, people change, and moved on like it was nothing. I never pushed. I hadn't seen or heard from Danielle since. Now she was being dropped into this like a secret card I didn't know I had. I texted back. Why? What does Danielle have to do with anything? Again, the dots. Then another reply. Just ask her what happened the night before your anniversary. Then decide if you still want her back. My stomach twisted. The night before our anniversary. 2 years ago. That was the night Meredith said she was exhausted from work and went to bed early. I'd made reservations at this small Italian place, and she canceled last minute. I ate alone, brought her tiramisu, and left it on the nightstand while she pretended to sleep. I never thought twice about it. Until now. I opened my contacts. Search for Danielle. Nothing. I deleted her years ago out of courtesy, maybe jealousy. But I remembered she worked at a small photography studio downtown. I wasn't sure if she still did, but I suddenly needed to find her. I drove straight there. The lights were off, but there was a small sign in the window that read, by appointment only. Text for booking. And beneath it, a number. I pulled out my phone. But before I could type a single word, it lit up again. New message. Same number. Be careful who you trust. And this time, it wasn't just unsettling. It felt like a threat. I didn't text her. I don't know why. Maybe it felt too clinical. Too detached for what I was about to ask. So instead, I waited outside the studio until someone showed up. I didn't expect it to be her. But it was. She pulled up in a gray SUV, window cracked, sunglasses on even though the sky was overcast. Danielle. Exactly as I remembered her. Sharp ponytail, expensive perfume, expression like she knew something you didn't. I stood up from the curb, and she froze when she saw me. I raised a hand, unsure if she'd drive off. Instead, she parked, got out, and said the words I didn't expect. I was wondering how long it would take. No hello, no confusion, just that. I blinked. You knew I'd come? She nodded. Eventually. Come inside. Inside was small, clean, minimalist, the kind of place that smelled like eucalyptus and ambition. I sat down on a velvet bench near the window. She didn't offer me coffee, just stood by the door, arms crossed. You got the message, she said. So it was her? I asked. You're the one who texted me? Danielle shook her head. No, but I know who did. She didn't elaborate. She just walked over, pulled out her phone, and showed me something. A photo. A screen capture of a text. From Meredith. It was dated 2 years ago. I don't care if he finds out. I need to feel something again. It was sent at 11:47 p.m. the night before our anniversary. The night she said she was too tired to celebrate. The night I sat alone with a slice of tiramisu she never touched. I stared at the screen. Who was she talking to? I asked. Danielle hesitated. Then she said the name I never expected. Me. My breath caught. You? Danielle nodded, slowly. I told her to leave you. My hands curled into fists, but I didn't move. I needed to hear it. Every ugly piece. She told me she was numb, Danielle continued. That you clung to her like a lifeline. That she felt trapped. I didn't know what to say, so I told her to get out before she started resenting you. I didn't know about Link. Not until later. I swallowed. Hard. And then, I asked, what happened after that? Danielle looked down. She ghosted me. Blocked me. Cut me off completely. Why? She said I made her feel guilty. Said I judged her. But I didn't, not really. I just told her the truth. That leaving someone is one thing. But lying while pretending to love them? That's cruelty. The room fell silent. Then she looked up at me. Eyes sharp. Voice low. Clark, you weren't crazy. You weren't needy. You were drowning, and she watched you do it. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there. The walls felt too close. The air too heavy. Because somewhere inside me, I still wanted to believe that Meredith had loved me once, that all of this wasn't just one long manipulation. But Danielle wasn't done. "There's more," she said. And then she pulled out a second photo. It wasn't a message. It was a picture. From a security cam. Outside a hotel. Dated 2 years ago. Same week. It was blurry, grainy, but clear enough. Meredith and Link kissing at midnight. While I was in our bedroom, writing her a love letter I never gave her. I felt the air leave my lungs like I'd been sucker punched. But before I could react, Danielle grabbed my arm and whispered something that made my blood run cold. "She didn't just cheat on you. She recorded it." I looked at her, stunned, confused, horrified. Danielle's voice dropped to a whisper. "And someone still has the footage. She recorded it." That sentence just kept spinning in my head like a broken carousel. Danielle stood there, completely still, like she knew what it would do to me. Like she needed to see it sink in before she could continue. But I couldn't process anything else. Just those words. She recorded it. Not just the betrayal, but a trophy of it. I wanted to ask why, but my voice cracked before I could speak. Danielle handed me a glass of water like she'd done this before. Maybe she had. Maybe she'd seen men implode like this. One quiet collapse at a time. "Who has it?" I asked, when I could finally form words again. She hesitated. Looked away. "I don't know for sure, but I think it's Link." "Why would he keep it?" She looked back at me then, and there was something in her eyes I didn't recognize. Fear. "Because he's not who you think he is." Now, I'd never met the guy, only seen his name in passing. But the way Meredith had carried herself, the secrecy, the defensiveness, I'd assumed he was just some coworker or gym trainer she fell too deep with. Danielle's tone changed all of that. I leaned in. "Who is he?" She walked over to her desk and pulled out a folder, a literal manila folder, like something from a detective show. She dropped it in front of me. Inside, printed emails, screenshots, photos, bank transactions. One even showed Meredith transferring money. Not much, but frequent. Small amounts over time. Always labeled consulting. "He met her through a wellness group," Danielle said, her voice flat. "One of those online mentorship circles for professional women." But it wasn't about growth. It was grooming. Link targets married women. Tells them they're unappreciated. That their husbands are holding them back. That they deserve freedom. I felt sick. "So he's some kind of manipulator," she cut in. "Yes. He makes them feel seen, heard, worshipped. Then once they're hooked, he isolates them. Convinces them they've outgrown their husbands, their friends, even their families. Then he moves in. Uses them. Emotionally, financially. Sometimes worse." "And Meredith?" I asked, my throat tight. "She fell hard," Danielle whispered. "And when she started to pull back, he got mean." I stared at the photos. Meredith looked different in them. Not just thinner or more tired. Haunted. She wasn't smiling. Even the way she stood looked like she was bracing for something. "And the video?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "I think he filmed it without her knowing." That knocked the air out of me. Danielle continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "He bragged about having insurance on every woman he'd rescued. Meredith told me once, before we stopped talking, that she'd done things she couldn't undo. Said she felt watched. Paranoid. Said if you ever found out, it would ruin you both." I pressed my hands to my face. "So why tell me now?" She walked over. Sat beside me. For the first time since I'd arrived, her tone softened. "Because I think you're in danger too." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. "Me? I'm not even in the picture anymore." "Exactly," she said. "And men like Link don't like being left out of the picture." Then she pulled out a final sheet. An IP address. Linked to a login attempt on my old email 3 nights ago. And my password was something only Meredith knew. Danielle looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Clark, this isn't about your marriage anymore. This is something else. And you need to wake up before it gets worse." I sat there frozen. And in the silence between us, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "You're getting too close." My hands were shaking when I left Danielle's studio. I didn't say goodbye. Didn't say thank you. I just grabbed the folder and walked out like the ground under me was collapsing. Because maybe it was. The air outside felt wrong. Heavy. I kept glancing over my shoulder as I crossed the street. My car sat under a flickering street lamp like it had been waiting too long. When I got in, I locked the doors automatically. I've never done that before. Not in this neighborhood. Not anywhere. I sat there with the folder in my lap, and for the first time, I realized something I hadn't let myself feel until now. I was scared. Not heartbroken. Not betrayed. Not confused. Just scared. Someone had accessed my email. Someone had my number. Someone knew where I was. And worse, someone wanted me to stop asking questions. But I couldn't. I was too deep now. I opened the folder again and stared at the printed log from my email account. Danielle had highlighted the IP address in red, but what she hadn't noticed, or maybe hadn't told me, was the location, a town 20 minutes from where I grew up. Not where Meredith lived. Not where Link worked. Where I used to live as a kid. What kind of twisted game was this? I drove. Not home. I didn't want to be alone in my apartment. I didn't want to find out the hard way that someone had been inside while I was gone. Instead, I headed to a cheap motel near the highway. The kind of place with buzzing fluorescent lights and front desk clerks who don't ask questions. I paid in cash. No ID. Once I was inside, I shoved a chair under the doorknob and turned off every light. Sat in the dark. Just me, the hum of the air conditioning, and the folder on the bed like it was radioactive. I opened my laptop. No Wi-Fi. I turned on my phone's hotspot. Hesitated. Then did something I hadn't done in years. I logged into our old joint cloud account. The one Meredith had insisted we share when we got married, for transparency. I hadn't touched it since I moved out. I expected it to be empty. Deleted. But it wasn't. There were 273 files. All images and videos. Most were boring. Pictures of vacations, birthdays, cooking disasters. Then I saw a folder titled April Archive. My stomach turned. Our anniversary was in April. I clicked it. Inside, 10 video files. No thumbnails. Just dates. One of them matched the timestamp Danielle had shown me, the hotel night. I didn't open it. Not yet. Because right then, my hotspot disconnected. I checked my phone. No signal. That made no sense. I stood up, walked to the window. Nothing but dark highway and blinking signs. I turned back to the bed and froze. The folder. It was gone. The laptop was still there. The browser still open. But the folder that had been sitting on the blanket, the actual manila folder Danielle gave me, was gone. I checked the floor. Under the bed. In the bathroom. Nothing. My heart was thudding in my ears. I hadn't heard anyone. Hadn't seen anything. I checked the door, still locked. The chair unmoved. I turned slowly toward the mirror. There, on the fogged-up surface from the AC, written with a finger, "She's not your enemy." I backed up so fast I hit the dresser. I grabbed my keys and bolted. Drove through red lights. Didn't breathe until I was back in the city. And even then, I couldn't shake the feeling. Because if Meredith wasn't the enemy, who was? I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat in the back booth of a 24-hour diner, drinking cup after cup of stale coffee, staring out the window like I was waiting for something. A sign, a message, a familiar face to step out of the darkness and say, "Okay, you've suffered enough. Here's the truth." But no one came. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called her. Meredith. I didn't text. Didn't wait for some perfect timing. I just hit her name and let it ring. She picked up on the second tone. "Clark?" Her voice was small, cautious. "I need you to tell me everything," I said. "And this time, I want the real version. No filters. No buzzwords. Just the truth." She didn't answer right away. I heard her exhale. Then footsteps, like she was pacing. Finally, she said, "Where are you?" I hesitated. But something in her tone felt different. Raw. No performance. "Wells and 13th Corner Diner." "Don't move," she said. And she hung up. 25 minutes later, she slid into the booth across from me. No makeup. Hoodie. Hair tied up like she hadn't slept either. She looked normal. Tired. Human. "I didn't know he recorded us," she said quietly. "That night at the hotel, I thought it was private. I didn't interrupt. I just let her talk. I told Link I wanted to stop. That I was going back to you. I thought he understood. But he started showing up at my job. Sending me photos. Telling me he had copies. He said if I didn't keep quiet, he'd send them to you. To my boss. To my parents. He said no one would ever see me the same again." Her voice cracked. I tried to get away from him. I blocked him. Changed my number. But it didn't matter. He still got in. I was terrified, Clark. I didn't say anything because I thought, if you knew it would kill you. And I didn't want to be the one who broke you. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "You already did." She nodded slowly. "I know. And I'll never forgive myself for that." Silence sat between us like a wall. but it didn't feel as heavy as before. Why now? I asked. Why tell me all of this now? Because I think someone's helping him again, she said. And you're in the middle of it. I never gave him your email. I swear. But he knows too much. And if he has your info, he'll use it. Just like he used mine. I leaned forward. So what do we do? She took a deep breath. We stopped running. And for the first time in years, we agreed on something. The next week was a blur of police reports, digital forensics, passwords reset, devices scanned. Danielle helped too, connected us with someone she knew in cybersecurity. We handed over everything. The messages, the video files, even the grainy hotel footage. And then we waited. It took 6 weeks, but eventually it unraveled. Link wasn't just some manipulative charmer. He had a whole network, fake names, ghost accounts, burner phones. He'd done this before. And not just to us. 3 other couples came forward. One woman from Michigan had even pressed charges. He was arrested on multiple counts: unlawful surveillance, coercion, online harassment. It wasn't justice in the fairy tale sense, but it was something. And for the first time in a long time, I slept through the night. Meredith and I didn't get back together. That part of us was done. But we sat down one final time. No lawyers, no accusations. Just 2 people who'd walked through fire and made it out without pretending they weren't burned. She hugged me before she left. I'm sorry I broke you, she whispered. I shook my head. You didn't. I just needed to remember how to stand. She smiled, small but real. And then she was gone. Today, I live in a small apartment with too much light and too few mugs. But I like it. It's quiet. Honest. I started painting again. Badly, but that's the point. I talk to Danielle sometimes. She sends memes now instead of warnings. I think that's progress. And sometimes, late at night, I think about how it all started. A lasagna in the oven and a note on the counter. But I don't feel bitterness anymore. I feel free. For the first time in years, I don't miss her. I don't miss who I became trying to keep her. And when my phone buzzes now, I don't brace myself. Because I'm not afraid of the truth anymore.